Now, Prince William, it seems that he has broken his silence on the rift with his brother, Prince Harry.
I think stuff to do with family overwhelms me quite a bit. You know, worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit. But in terms of, you know, doing the job and things like that, I don't feel too overwhelmed by that.
There was a time when William and Harry were the two most photographed brothers in the world and the most genuinely close, not because the cameras required them to be. Because the grief they shared from the age of 15 and 12 respectively created something between them that the people who knew them both consistently described as real, mutual. The specific bond that forms between two people who have lost the same person in the same devastating way at the same age when loss shapes everything that comes after it. Diana knew it. She told people who were close to her that her greatest hope for her sons was that they would always have each other, that whatever the institution did to them, whatever pressures the crown placed on the person who would inherit it, they would remain connected by the thing they shared that nobody else in the world fully understood. She died before she could see what happened. On a January morning in 2020, William stood in a room at Sandringham and delivered a verdict that sources say left Harry with the specific feeling of a door closing, not being pushed through, not slamming, simply and permanently closing. He did not raise his voice. He did not make accusations. He simply made clear that the arrangement Harry was asking for was not one William was willing to sanction, and that without William's sanction, it was not one the institution would permit. Harry had hoped for something in the middle. He did not find it. What happened in the 18 months before that room at Sandringham that made the outcome there almost inevitable? What was said when the door finally closed? What both men have done in the years since? And whether the distance between them is something that time will eventually close or something that has already become permanent. This is that story. Before we go any further, if you are new to Palace Drop, subscribe now and hit the bell. We cover the royal family the way it actually happens, not the official version, the human story underneath it all. This one goes back to 1997, and it is the most important story this channel has told. Stay with us. To understand what broke, you have to understand what existed before the breaking. William and Harry grew up in a world that was fundamentally unlike anything most people can imagine. Extraordinary privilege on one side, extraordinary scrutiny on the other. The specific combination of being among the most famous children in the world, while simultaneously being required to navigate the ordinary emotional terrain of growing up inside a family that was visibly and publicly falling apart. Their parents' marriage collapsed in public across the late 1980s and early 1990s in a way that generated global attention and that placed both boys inside a story they had no power over and no language to address. Diana's unhappiness was documented in real time. Charles's affair was confirmed in a television interview when William was 12. The divorce happened when William was 14, and then Diana died when William was 15 and Harry was 12. The specific quality of that loss for those two boys was unlike almost any other public grief in modern history. They did not simply lose their mother. They lost her in a Paris tunnel on a summer night while the world watched and formed opinions and generated headlines and debated causes and assigned blame. They lost her in a way that gave them no privacy in which to grieve, no protected space where the loss could be experienced as simply a loss rather than as an international event. And they walked behind her coffin, in public, in front of billions, at 15 and 12. The bond that formed in the shared experience of that loss and that walk and everything that came after it was real, in the way that bonds formed in extreme circumstances are real. Deeper and more durable than ordinary sibling closeness because it was built on something that nobody else in the world shared in quite the same way. William was Harry's anchor. Harry was William's connection to something less formal and less managed than the heir's life required him to be. They ran the royal foundation together. They appeared in public together. They supported each other's charitable work. They were, by every external measure available, genuinely close. That closeness had a structural pressure underneath it that was always going to become significant eventually. William was the heir, Harry was the spare. That distinction is not simply ceremonial. It shapes every operational reality of royal life in ways that become more pronounced as the heir moves closer to actually inheriting. The institution contracts around William as he approaches the throne. The space it makes for Harry shrinks correspondingly. That is not anyone's decision. It is the structural logic of how the monarchy has always worked. Add to that structural pressure the specific dynamic of Meghan's arrival, and the specific way that arrival changed the operational reality of the household they shared, and the foundation that had seemed solid began to show the cracks that had always been there underneath it. Drop in the comments right now where you are watching from, country or city below. We want to know where the Palace Cedrop community is based. Drop it below and stay with us, because the specific moment that people close to both brothers identify as the point of no return is not what most coverage has focused on, and it happened earlier than most people realized. The first visible sign that something had changed came not from either brother directly, but from Kensington Palace itself. In March 2018, a formal announcement confirmed that the Royal Foundation, the joint charitable vehicle that William, Kate, Harry, and the newly engaged Meghan had all been operating through together, would be restructured. Harry and Meghan would establish their own separate charitable operation. The palace framed it as a natural evolution of two growing households with distinct priorities. The people who had been inside that operation described it differently. The joint work had become professionally difficult in ways that were not being publicly acknowledged. Decisions that should have been straightforward were generating friction. The shared infrastructure that had functioned smoothly for years was producing tension that the standard management of a joint royal household was not designed to absorb. The restructuring was the institution's way of acknowledging what was already visible to everyone inside it, without requiring anyone to say it directly. Something had shifted between the two brothers. What had shifted was partly structural and partly personal and partly the specific chemistry of four people with different needs and different histories and different relationships to the institution they all occupied, trying to operate as a unit in a space that was not designed to accommodate all of them equally. Meghan was not the cause of the breakdown between William and Harry. That framing is too simple and too convenient. But her presence accelerated a structural pressure that was always going to become acute eventually, and it added a personal dimension to an institutional difficulty that made everything harder to navigate than it would otherwise have been. Harry felt that William had not made Meghan welcome in the way that genuine welcome would have required. William felt that Harry had not acknowledged the legitimate concerns that William had raised about the pace and the nature of Harry's relationship with Meghan before they married. Both of those feelings were real. Neither of them was simply wrong, and both of them fed into a dynamic that neither man had the tools or the space to address before it became entrenched. By late 2018, the two households were operating separately in the institutional sense. By 2019, they were operating separately in the personal sense as well. In October 2019, ITV broadcast a documentary following Harry and Meghan on their royal tour of Southern Africa. In it, Harry spoke to journalist Tom Bradby, a journalist he had known personally for years and trusted enough to be honest with on camera. He said that he and William were on different paths. He said that brothers have good days and bad days. He chose his words carefully, but the fact of choosing to say anything at all on camera about the distance between himself and his brother was itself the most significant statement he could have made. William did not respond publicly. The institutional silence from his household was its own form of response. In January 2020, Harry and Meghan published a statement on their official website announcing that they intended to step back from senior royal duties and pursue financial independence while remaining members of the royal family. They published it without prior approval from the palace, without telling William first. William read about it the way the rest of the world did, through the statement itself. The specific injury of that, for a man who had shared the most devastating experience of his life with his brother and who had operated as his brother's closest ally and anchor for 23 years, was significant. Whatever William's private feelings about the direction Harry and Meghan had been moving in, he had not been warned. He had not been given the opportunity to be a brother before he was required to be an institution. Queen Elizabeth convened the Sandringham summit within days. Charles, William, and Harry present in person. Meghan on the phone from Canada. The meeting lasted approximately 3 hours. William arrived with a position, not a negotiating position, a final position. The institutional options were full membership of the working royal family or complete departure. There was no middle ground he was willing to validate because William had concluded that a partial arrangement would create an operational situation that was unworkable for the institution and that would, in his assessment, ultimately damage Harry more than a clean departure would. Whether that conclusion was correct is something that the years since have not fully resolved. Harry had hoped for something in between, a part-time royal arrangement that allowed him and Meghan to pursue independent professional lives while retaining some connection to the institution and the country they had come from. He did not find it in that room. The Queen's public statement afterwards talked about some months of transition. That language quietly disappeared from every subsequent official communication within days. The timeline compressed to spring 2020. The partial arrangement was formally rejected. Harry and Meghan left for California. Permanently. The years between 2020 and 2026 have been documented in more detail than almost any equivalent period in modern royal history. The Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the memoir, the court testimony. Harry has told his version of events across multiple platforms and multiple formats with a specificity and a willingness to name names that the institution he left has consistently chosen not to match. William has said almost nothing. His public statements about Harry across 6 years can be counted on one hand, and none of them have engaged directly with the specific accounts Harry has offered in his various public appearances. The institutional silence from Kensington Palace on the substance of Harry's claims is consistent and deliberate. Whether that silence represents composure, or suppressed grief, or genuine estrangement, or all three simultaneously, is not something the public record can definitively tell you. What the public record can tell you is the specific observable facts. Harry and Meghan attended the Queen's funeral in September 2022. William and Harry were photographed walking together behind the coffin. The image recalled 1997 in a way that moved people around the world. But the two men did not appear to speak at length during the public portions of the occasion. At Charles's coronation in May 2023, Harry attended alone. He was seated in the third row. He left within hours of the ceremony. He and William appeared in the same frame twice in footage from the day. They did not appear to interact. In a broadcast interview in mid-2025, Harry was asked directly about his relationship with William. He used the word estranged. He did not qualify it. He did not walk it back in any subsequent public statement. William has not used any word publicly to describe the relationship. His silence on that specific question is perhaps the most eloquent thing he has said about it. Subscribe to Palace Drop right now and hit the bell. This is the channel that maps the real story underneath the official version. Every week, every video. Subscribe now so you never miss what is coming next. Behind the official record, there are things that the people close to both men have described that add dimension to the public facts. William has not spoken publicly about Harry with anything beyond the absolute minimum, but the people who know him describe a man who carries the loss of his brother in a way that is different from the other institutional challenges of his life. Not with bitterness as the primary note, with a grief that sits alongside whatever else he feels about the specific choices Harry made and the specific way those choices unfolded. He and Harry shared something that cannot be replaced by anyone else in his life, the specific experience of growing up as Diana's sons, of walking behind her coffin, of being the two people in the world who knew what that loss felt like from the inside. No one who was not one of those two boys on that September morning in 1997 can ever fully share what exists between them as a result of it. The estrangement does not erase that. It places it somewhere that is harder to reach, but it does not make it disappear. People close to William describe him as someone who has not given up on the possibility of repair, not in the immediate operational sense. Not in the sense of wanting Harry to return to royal duties or wanting the public conflict to be resolved through a joint statement, but in the deeper human sense of believing that the thing they share underneath everything that has happened between them is not something that either of them can simply decide to no longer have. Diana told them they would always have each other. William has not publicly contradicted that. He has simply gone very quiet on the subject. Harry has been less quiet. He has described the estrangement in terms that suggest he experiences it as a source of genuine ongoing pain, rather than as a concluded chapter. He has spoken about wanting reconciliation in terms that reveal he understands what reconciliation would actually require, and that he is not certain either of them is currently in a position to provide it. The children are the dimension that neither public record nor private account has fully addressed. George and Charlotte and Louise have cousins they have barely met. Archie and Lilibet have grandparents they see rarely, and uncles and aunts who are effectively strangers. Whatever the adults have decided about their own relationships, these are children who are growing up at a distance from each other through no choice of their own. That reality sits quietly underneath every official photograph of William's family at royal occasions, and every photograph of Harry's family at Invictus events. Two families, two sets of children, carrying the same grandmother's absence, growing up apart. Diana died in August 1997, believing her greatest achievement was not any of her charity work or her public impact or her transformation of what the public expected from royal life. Her greatest achievement, in her own words, was her sons. She raised them to feel, to be present with people, to notice suffering and respond to it, rather than manage it from a distance. She brought them to homeless shelters and hospital wards and landmine fields, not because the institution asked her to, but because she believed they needed to understand that the world outside the palace was real and required something genuine from the people who had the privilege of representing it publicly. She raised William to be a king who felt things, and she raised Harry to be a man who said things. The specific irony of where they ended up is not lost on anyone who understood Diana well. The son she raised to feel became the institutional figure who goes very quiet when the feelings are most complicated. The son she raised to say things said too many of them in public in ways that created damage she would not have wanted. Neither of them is simply right or wrong in what they have done since 2020. Both of them are trying to honor something they received from her in the specific ways their characters and circumstances have allowed them to honor it. William protecting her ring, William redirecting duchy resources toward her causes, William raising Charlotte to embody the quality that Queen Elizabeth recognized in Diana and documented in a sealed letter, Harry speaking publicly about the institution's failures, Harry insisting that the gap between the official story and the private reality be acknowledged. Harry refusing the silence that Diana was required to maintain while she was alive. Different methods, the same inheritance. And somewhere underneath 6 years of public conflict and institutional estrangement and legal proceedings and memoirs and interviews, the thing Diana hoped they would always have for each other is still there, waiting. For a moment that has not yet come. As of 2026, William and Harry have not had a substantive private conversation in years, according to Harry's own public account. William has not confirmed or denied this. Charles's cancer diagnosis in 2024 brought Harry briefly back to the United Kingdom for a private visit that the palace confirmed lasted approximately 45 minutes. William was not present for the confirmed portion of that visit. Whether the two brothers spoke privately during that period is not part of any confirmed public account. The Archewell Foundation continues its work in California. The Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales continues its work in the United Kingdom. There is no documented operational overlap and no confirmed contact between the two organizations. Two foundations, two households, two families, an ocean and 6 years of public conflict between them. And somewhere underneath all of it, two boys who walked behind their mother's coffin together in September 1997 and promised each other without words that they would always have each other. Whether that promise survives what has happened between them is the question that neither public record nor private account has yet fully answered. But Diana believed it would. She knew her sons. She raised them to be people who felt things deeply enough to grieve them when they were gone. The grief of losing each other is real for both of them. That grief is also the proof that what they had was real. And real things do not simply disappear, they wait. In January 2020, two brothers sat in a room at Sandringham and reached the end of a road that had been narrowing for at least 2 years. One stayed, one left. The one who left kept talking, the one who stayed kept quiet. 6 years on neither position has fully changed. But Diana raised both of them to feel things deeply, to care genuinely, to be present in their grief rather than managed within it. The estrangement they are living with is a form of grief that both of them are carrying in the specific ways their characters allow them to carry it. William carries it quietly, Harry carries it publicly. Diana would have understood both. She always did. Subscribe to Palace Drop and hit the bell. Every week we go deeper on the stories the Palace does not want mapped. The Palace has a version of every story. This is the other one. There is a reason the Palace does not want this story told the way we just told it, and there is a reason we are going to keep telling it. What comes next on this channel goes even further than what you just watched. Subscribe and hit the bell. The Palace has a version of every story. This is the other one.